The heavy oak doors of the Blackwood estate closed behind Sofia Martinez with a sound that felt like a prison gate slamming shut. She stood in the marble foyer, her simple wedding dress still pristine despite the turmoil in her heart, and listened to her new husband's footsteps echoing as he walked away without a word. Damien Blackwood had spoken to her exactly 3 times during their wedding ceremony, each word clipped and businesslike. "I do. The ring. It's done. Now." As she stood alone in the house that was supposed to be her home, Sofia wondered how she had become a bargaining chip in a deal she didn't understand. 3 months ago, her life had been completely different. She had been working as a nurse at Stevie Mary's hospital, sharing a small apartment with her younger brother Carlos while he finished high school. They had been poor but happy, building a life together after their parents died in a car accident 5 years earlier. Then the medical bills started arriving. Carlos had been diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia that required experimental treatment not covered by insurance. The costs were astronomical, hundreds of thousands of dollars that Sofia could never hope to earn in her lifetime. That's when Vincent Blackwood, Damien's uncle, had appeared at the hospital with an offer that seemed too good to be true. He would pay for all of Carlos's medical expenses, ensure he received the best possible care, and provide financial security for both siblings. In exchange, Sofia would marry his nephew. "It's a business arrangement," Vincent had explained with cold efficiency. "Damien needs a wife for legal reasons related to his inheritance. You need money for your brother's treatment. It's a mutually beneficial transaction." Sofia had tried to refuse, but Carlos was getting sicker, and the doctors were clear that, without immediate treatment, he would die. Faced with her brother's life hanging in the balance, she had signed the papers that bound her to a man she had never met. Now, walking slowly up the grand staircase to what Vincent had told her would be her quarters, Sofia tried to process the reality of her situation. The house was enormous and beautifully appointed, but it felt cold and unwelcoming, like a museum where she was an unwanted exhibit. Her rooms were elegant but impersonal, a bedroom, sitting area, and private bathroom decorated in expensive neutrals that revealed nothing about the personality of their intended occupant. On the nightstand was a typed note in Vincent's handwriting. "Family dinner is at 7. Dress appropriately. Your brother's treatment begins tomorrow. At least Carlos would be okay." That knowledge was the only thing keeping Sofia from breaking down completely. That evening, Sofia made her way to the dining room wearing the only dress suitable for a formal dinner, a simple black piece she had worn to job interviews. She found Damien already seated at the head of a table that could easily accommodate 20 people. He had changed from his wedding suit into dark slacks and a white shirt, and for the first time, Sofia had a chance to really look at her husband. He was younger than she had expected, probably only a few years older than her own 26 years. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his gray eyes were sharp with intelligence. He would have been handsome if not for the hard lines around his mouth and the cold distance in his expression. "Sit," he said without looking up from the documents he was reviewing while eating. Sofia took a seat several chairs away from him, and they ate in complete silence. The food was excellent, but she could barely taste it. When she tried to speak, to make some attempt at polite conversation, Damien held up a hand to silence her without lifting his eyes from his papers. After dinner, he finally addressed her directly. "I want to be clear about the terms of this arrangement," he said, his voice devoid of warmth. "This is a marriage in name only. You will have your own quarters, your own schedule. I expect you to appear at social functions when required and to maintain the appearance of a proper wife in public. Beyond that, we have no relationship." Sofia nodded, unsure whether to feel relieved or hurt by his bluntness. "Your brother's medical expenses will be covered as agreed. In exchange, you will stay out of my way and make no demands on my time or attention. Is that understood?" "Understood," Sofia replied quietly. Over the next several weeks, they settled into a routine of mutual avoidance. Damien left early for his office at Blackwood Industries and returned late, often after Sofia had already gone to bed. They shared the same house but lived completely separate lives. Sophia spent her days visiting Carlos at the treatment center, where the experimental therapy was already showing promising results. The doctors were optimistic, and her brother was regaining strength daily. She also volunteered at a local free clinic, needing some way to use her nursing skills and feel useful. It was during one of these volunteer shifts that Sophia first glimpsed a different side of her husband. She was leaving the clinic late one evening when she saw a familiar figure in the alley behind the building. Damien was there, but not as the cold businessman she knew. He was kneeling beside an elderly homeless man, checking his pulse and speaking in soothing tones. "Sir, I'm going to call an ambulance," Damien was saying. "You're going to be okay, but you need medical attention." Sophia watched in amazement as her husband, the man who barely acknowledged her existence, showed genuine compassion and concern for a stranger. He stayed with the man until the paramedics arrived, then quietly followed the ambulance to the hospital. The next morning at breakfast, Sophia decided to mention what she had seen. "I was at the free clinic yesterday," she began carefully. "I saw you helping that homeless man." Damien's fork froze halfway to his mouth, and for a moment, something flickered in his eyes: surprise, perhaps even vulnerability. Then the cold mask slipped back into place. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said curtly, but Sophia had seen the truth, and it changed something in how she viewed him. Over the following days, she began to notice other things. Medical journals on his desk, charitable donations listed in papers he left around the house, phone calls he made late at night to what sounded like hospital administrators. One evening, curiosity finally got the better of her. When Damien left for one of his mysterious late-night trips, Sophia followed him. She watched from across the street as he entered St. Mary's Hospital, the same hospital where she used to work, and didn't emerge for over an hour. The next day, Sophia visited her former colleagues and asked casual questions. What she learned shocked her to her core. For the past 3 years, an anonymous donor had been covering medical expenses for patients who couldn't afford treatment. The donations always came with specific instructions: no publicity, no recognition, no contact with the beneficiaries. The hospital staff had nicknamed their mysterious benefactor the Guardian Angel. Dr. Patricia Williams, Sophia's former supervisor, was happy to share what she knew. "Whoever it is has medical knowledge," Dr. Williams explained. "The donations always come with detailed treatment recommendations that are absolutely sound. It's like having a consulting physician who never shows his face." Sophia felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Has this person ever donated for leukemia treatment? Experimental therapies? Oh yes, several times. Just recently, actually. A young man named Carlos Martinez received a full treatment package. Whoever our angel is, they seem to specialize in cases that other people have given up on. That evening, Sophia confronted Damien in his study. He looked up from his medical journals with his usual cold expression, but she could see wariness in his eyes. "I know," she said simply. "Know what?" he replied, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. "I know you're the one who's been paying for medical treatments at St. Mary's. I know you have a medical degree that you've never used professionally. And I know you arranged for Carlos's treatment not as part of some business deal, but because you couldn't stand to let a young man die when you had the power to save him." Damien was quiet for a long moment, then slowly closed the journal he had been reading. "You don't understand," he said finally. "Then help me understand." Damien stood and walked to the window, staring out at the manicured gardens. When he spoke, his voice was softer than Sophia had ever heard it. "I was supposed to be a doctor. It's all I ever wanted to do. I graduated from medical school, did my residency in emergency medicine. I was good at it." He paused. "Then my father died, and Vincent convinced me that I had obligations to the family business that were more important than my personal desires. So you gave up medicine?" "Vincent made it clear that if I didn't take over Blackwood Industries, everything my father built would be lost. Hundreds of employees would lose their jobs. I convinced myself it was the noble choice." Sophia could hear the regret in his voice, the weight of a dream sacrificed for duty. "But you never stopped being a doctor in your heart," she said gently. Damien turned to face her, and for the first time since their wedding, she saw genuine emotion in his eyes. I tried to find other ways to help. Anonymous donations, consultations through intermediaries. It wasn't enough, but it was something. He paused. When Vincent told me about your brother's situation, I couldn't let another person die when I had the resources to prevent it. So the marriage contract was Vincent's idea. He's been pressuring me to marry for years, something about legal requirements for the family trust. When your situation arose, he saw an opportunity to solve both problems at once. Damien's expression hardened slightly. I went along with it because it was the only way to get him to approve the funding for Carlos's treatment. Sophia stared at her husband, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not a ruthless businessman, but a man who had sacrificed his dreams to meet others' expectations, who channeled his frustrated desire to heal into secret acts of charity. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" she asked. "Because it doesn't change anything," Damien replied, the coldness creeping back into his voice. "I'm still trapped in a life I never wanted, married to a woman who was forced to marry me for money. The truth doesn't make this situation any less horrible for either of us." "Maybe it does," Sophia said quietly. "Maybe it changes everything." Over the following weeks, something shifted between them. They began talking, really talking for the first time. Sophia learned about Damien's passion for emergency medicine, his frustration with the corporate world, his deep sense of responsibility for others. Damien discovered Sophia's dedication to nursing, her fierce love for her brother, and her own dreams of opening a clinic for underserved communities. They started having dinner together, sharing stories about their work and their hopes. Damien began consulting on some of the difficult cases at the free clinic where Sophia volunteered, offering his medical expertise anonymously through her. One evening, as they walked through the estate gardens after dinner, Sophia made a confession of her own. "I need to tell you something," she said. "When I first agreed to marry you, it was only for Carlos. But these last few weeks, getting to know who you really are, I don't want this to be just a business arrangement anymore." Damien stopped walking and turned to face her. "Sophia, you don't owe me anything. You were forced into this marriage. I wasn't forced to fall in love with you," she said simply. The words hung in the air between them, and Sophia saw something break open in Damien's expression: surprise, hope, and something that looked very much like love. "I never expected this," he said softly. "I thought I was trapped in a loveless marriage, paying penance for the choices I've made. I never imagined I could find someone who understood, someone who sees the doctor you still are, even when you're wearing a business suit." Damien smiled, the first real smile Sophia had seen from him since their wedding day. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the clinic you want to open, about the medical work I miss. Maybe there's a way we could combine our dreams, build something together." 6 months later, the Blackwood Martinez Community Health Center opened its doors in one of the city's most underserved neighborhoods. Damien had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Blackwood Industries, using his business skills to run the clinic while practicing medicine again for the first time in years. Sophia served as head nurse and program coordinator, finally able to pursue her vision of accessible healthcare for everyone. Their marriage, which had begun as a cold transaction, had become a true partnership built on shared values and genuine love. They had learned that sometimes the most beautiful relationships grow from the most unlikely circumstances, and that discovering someone's secret can indeed change everything, especially when that secret reveals not weakness, but the hidden strength of a compassionate heart.